фаундър на Optus Digital и Under 2. Моля за вашите аплодисменти.
Well, I have no idea what you said in any of that. It was all smart, right? It's all good stuff. How big was this presentation in megabytes?
Best secret. 255.
250 megabyte presentation just coming up, guys. Ready? Okay. So, none of you probably know who I am. I'm Chris. I love digital. It's literally why I get out of bed in the morning, not just to pay the bills, but because I actually love it. I often get up in the middle of the night and start doing stuff on our websites. I run Optus Digital, which is a digital marketing agency based in London and Manchester in the UK, and I also run a web design business called Under 2, where everything we build loads in under 2 seconds, obviously. I've worked with some really cool brands internationally. Not going to bore anyone with the list or anything like that, but when you work with big brands, you get to do big cool stuff, right? I have a technology addiction, which is basically why I come to all these things and fly all over the world and talk to people, because then I can buy stuff with the money that I get from doing it all. I've got a connected ring, my watch, everything is connected in some way to the internet, which bores my wife, but keeps me really, really happy. I've got two really awesome dogs. This one is Luna. She's actually pretty evil and eats things in the house that she shouldn't eat. And this is Stephen. He's basically an angel. He's an absolutely perfect dog. And I speak at great events like this. I often go to Brighton SEO. I'm speaking at SMX next week, or the week after next in London. So if you come to the UK for any events, then please look me up. It'll be good to catch up and get to know you. Throughout this entire presentation, until I leave the room, no one is to talk about Brexit. It's a national crime. And this is the reason why the presentation is 150 megabytes. It's got GIFs in it pretty much the entire way through. So I'm not really sorry about it, because I really love GIFs. It's probably the second thing I love after buying stuff that's too expensive that I won't use and needs batteries. So the web is enormous. I think there's probably more than that. I couldn't find the exact stat. I think it's probably about 100 trillion pages, and that's about 100 billion additional pages per month are crawled by Google. So do you really think your 400-word blog on a website is really that important to Google? Does it give a shit? Really? If it doesn't, you're shouting really loudly into a massive crowd. You're adding another page to that 100 billion per month of content just for the sake of SEO. We all do it. We're all guilty of writing content for SEO that is basically useless. It has a short shelf life, and it doesn't really do anyone any good. It's a lot of labour for very little value. So, yeah. This is a quote from Seth Godin. In a crowded marketplace, fitting in is failing. In a busy marketplace, not standing out is the same as being invisible. So basically, if you just do what everyone else does, you're going at the same speed as them. So become the purple cow. I don't know if you can see that colour from here, I can't. But that cow is purple. What I'm saying is we can all be in SEO, we can all do SEO, but if we don't do something differently to our competitors or to other businesses, we really can't compete properly. We're just doing the same thing. If everyone on the road down here drives at exactly the same speed, no one will overtake anybody else. So if you're always doing the exact same thing as everyone, you may as well not do anything at all. So I'm going to talk about, oh no, that's supposed to be animated. There we go. Yep, it works. So I'm going to talk about strategy for content marketing rather than the whole piece of content marketing, because without strategy, it's just tactics, and tactics are expensive and wasteful. So lots of people just think strategy is a checklist. I need to sell more stuff. So because I need to sell more stuff, I need to do these 10 things, whatever those 10 things might be. The key strategy components, though, I think this one's planning to kill my dogs. So the key strategy components, you need to research the landscape, understand what the landscape is, and that isn't just your website, that's not just your competitors, that's the whole digital landscape. So you need to look at every single part and parcel of the website. It might not be that you even look at content first in a content strategy. You might look at your competitors, or you might look at your products or your services before you decide what you're going to do with content. Next is to collate those challenges. So work out what all of the challenges are you need to overcome. And this is the same for any strategy, by the way. This is a blueprint, effectively. You need to list all of those challenges out, and you might have, for one action, for example, a content strategy, you might have 5 different challenges. But within each of those challenges, you might have 5, 10, 15 individual actions that would need to be done in order to overcome that challenge. One challenge might be slow page load time, but you have 50 different things you need to change in order to make your challenge of faster page load an overcome issue. You need to set up the action's measurements. So it's not good enough to just say, tick, it's done. When you're planning your strategy, you need to basically say, what does good look like? What is it that I'm trying to achieve? And you need to put a business number to that. So that's a euro sign or a lev sign. I don't know what the lev sign looks like, but it's a pound sign to it. You have to put some monetary value or something that is related to the business. Without doing that, then you could say, yeah, we've put 50 articles live and you rank #1 for t-shirts now, but has that translated into more sales? Has that translated into more money for you? If it hasn't, then what's the point? And then you need to take action, but once you've created your strategy, it isn't a written in stone list. You have to make adjustments. As you're making adjustments, you're making them based on the things that you're measuring. Did that work? Did that not work? If it didn't work, then should you adjust how you tackle it? Or for the next round in of challenges, is there a better way of coming into those issues? So this is the only one which isn't animated for some reason. So when you're researching, this is obviously very true of all content marketing, but in the wider piece in terms of strategy, you need to know who am I targeting, what am I targeting, where are they, when are they, and why are they doing what they're doing. So if I'm trying to look for a new job, am I using a desktop and am I using it during work hours, or am I using my mobile when I'm travelling to the job I hate? If you know who I am, I'm looking for a job. You know where I am, I'm on a train or a bus or in a car. You know when I am, just before or after work in the day. And then you know why, because I don't like my job. So then you know what kind of content to write. By the way, I love my job, so I don't really look for them. And so you need to know who your audience are, and what we tend to do is we build audience personas. So this is Holly, and she's a sophisticated foodie, which basically translates to middle class in the UK and spends a lot more on the same things as everybody else, and then says she's a foodie. She just likes expensive food. What we do is we work out what that person's personality is like, what their goals might be in terms of life goals, but just general personality goals, what typically frustrates them, what motivates them, things like their preferred channels. So if you're a little bit older, you might prefer traditional print media, whereas if you're a digital native, like they say now, you're more likely to be on liking guerrilla marketing, social media and online, for example. Once you know who they are, you then need to go, well, do we actually offer the stuff to that person, or do we want to be offering the stuff to that person? And then that should tell you relatively quickly, well, actually, I'm not offering my product properly to Holly, I'm actually targeting it better at these people. So do I want to realign to her, or do I need to change to someone else? So you should always look at multiple different audience personas, but also try and work out, am I actually selling to the right people? Am I shouting into the right market? So if you know that, then that's great. If you don't know that, then these work really well to understand whether or not that's the case. And obviously you have lots of data with Google Analytics now with the demographic level stuff. That should tell you, are people like Holly coming to my website? If you're using Facebook pixels on your website, you can get a lot of demographic data there, build lookalike audiences and work out who is it that comes to my site? And if those people match that person, then you're already 50% of the problem solved. You need to know what they're looking for, when and how. So for the rest of this presentation, I can't for the life of me remember why, I chose cheese as an example. I thought cheese was really obvious for some reason at the time, it's not. So when are people looking for cheese the most in the UK? Well, it's around Christmas time because people have lots of parties and wine and cheese and things like that. So apart from the rest of the year, November is really popular for cheese. If you're in the cheese market, go to the UK around then, you sell lots of cheese. But you know, Holly and her friends and people like her are looking mostly around that time of the year, which suggests that you need to be creating your content strategy around the peak times. So then you know who, you know what, i.e. cheese, and you know where, and then you need to know how are they searching. This is called a tool called Answer the Public. You literally put a small phrase in there, I'm sure most of you have used it, and you create this enormous wheel. What we typically do is we pull that out, we then get Google Search Console query data and try and match them so we know we're already targeting well or already half the way there for certain phrases. Sometimes you realise, okay, these are the things that people are searching for related to the products, but actually looking at Search Console, looking at my ranking reporting suite, whatever it is you use, actually we're not getting anywhere near any of this stuff. So do we really need to be, again, targeting that stuff, or should we just walk away and only target the people that we know we're working with well? Is there intent behind the people's queries? Am I asking how-to questions? Am I asking purchase level types of questions? As everyone in here should know, if you do SEO at all, SEO or organic touches almost every element of the funnel, from awareness all the way through to purchase or conversion. So do I really need to answer the how questions if I just want people to get to the buying part? Or do I need to do the when questions at certain times of the year? How do I know whether or not there's enough intent behind what I'm doing in order for it to make the strategy worthwhile? And then, have you then looked at the competition? And obviously, everyone's got competitive research. We use Semrush for that, for example. And basically, if you put in your main keyword, whatever that might be, this will show you, your top 10 competitors. That's great. But then, when you look at those top 10 competitors, have a look at the top 3 in the search results, and you'll see, okay, the first main competitor actually gets a lot of business, ranks really well, malformed title, the next one, too long description, the one after that is too long description and title there, so perhaps they're not investing in good SEO. If that's the case, then it means that you might not have to put in as much effort or resource. If they've not got the basics right, then it means that if you do the basics plus, you're going to have a better opportunity at competing against these people. And then, are these people doing stupid shit? Like building too many links from referring pages and then deleting them all or removing them all. These guys, findcheese.co.uk got a manual action a couple of years ago, and then they redid everything all over again. They did the exact same mistake again. So not only are they not investing properly by making silly mistakes with their basics, they're also listening to the wrong advice multiple times over, which basically means if you listen to the right advice and you do the right thing, you're going to do better. So this is that same website's blog archive page. Looks great, looks like they've got loads of content there. Then when you click into an article, that's how much content they have. So they've put the effort into the strategy of what should we write, and zero effort into the, well, not only just making it look nice, but actually having any real words there. So the opportunity here is, go here, copy all of their titles, write down a list and work out what you should be writing, and then just do that better. Because that's what people are searching for. They've done the research, they've just not done the implementation. So if you do that, you're going to do better than them. It sounds simple. So you need to look at, obviously, the challenges involved in doing that. So what are we up against? What are we trying to compete against? What is it that we need to resolve or fix or do in order for us to actually get the results that we need? So, are your competitors really content focused? Well, Find Cheese isn't, is it? So Find Cheese they're not focused properly on content. What's the client's history like? Have they, I don't know if you guys have got in Bulgaria a similar thing to in the UK, but in the UK you have to post your sales and revenue stats. So what we tend to do when we're looking at competitors digitally, we also look at them as a business and work out whether or not they're potentially profitable or doing the right thing. Then we look at things like LinkedIn and see how many employees they have. If they've got $5 billion in the bank and 500 employees, but they make stupid mistakes with title tags and content, then they're obviously not investing in the right places. Is there resource available? Some clients say, well, we can't write content because there's not enough to do. Some clients don't want content or a strategy or anything to do with that because they just don't see the value behind it. We're just trying to sell cheese. We don't want someone to find us on Google to understand how to make cheese. We just want them to buy it. Obviously, that's a challenge that we need to overcome, and it's usually one that we overcome with education. The trouble is when there isn't enough money to do these things, you need to work out how do I overcome the challenge of not being able to resource for what I'm doing. Usually you have to just do the process a lot slower in order for them to get the results eventually. Usually when you put a money sign to anything, you invest this, you get this, then people tend to find the money pretty quickly when they realise that it's going to work. And is there actually buy-in? Do you guys get clients here, and we do in the UK, where they pay you money and they think you're turning a big wheel and SEO is going to work, or you're pressing the SEO button in your office all day for them? Does anyone get that? They pay money and they expect to rank. They think we call Google and say, hey, they paid us today, can you keep them up there? But it isn't like that, right? We all know that. But if they think that, again, then you're not going to get the buy-in because they won't necessarily understand the level of attention and detail and input that you need to give them and they need to give you in order to get this right. If they just think you're turning the wheel, then just fire the client. So, well, yeah, don't do that. Try and educate them first. And is there really enough to write about? Do you need 3,000 articles, or do you just need 300 pieces of content or one piece of content that is perfect? You don't necessarily need to be churning out 400 word articles every single day, or 4 per month, or one per week, or 1 per day. You don't need that. You might actually find that deleting thousands of articles might actually be beneficial for you, because if you've got too many pages, your crawl budget is obviously going to be pretty narrow, and you're spreading yourself quite thin in terms of maintaining all of that. So deleting it can work. There's a company in the UK, they sell like guitars and things like that, they're called Anderton's Music. They deleted 3,000 of their articles and their rankings dropped immediately because obviously that's all that content gone. But then what they did was the approach that they took was to kill, keep or combine content. So is this valuable, does this rank, is it working? So they used Search Console ranking data, query data, they even looked at the server log files to see if the robots were even going to it, and then they decided, okay, this is great, we'll keep it, this is terrible, we'll kill it, and these are pretty good, but they're all a bit crap, so let's combine them into one thing. So if you think about is there enough to write about, and you've then look at your client's website or your own website and you see, okay, we've got 500 articles here. There's clearly enough to write about, but maybe not enough physically to write about, so you might combine ideas and answer multiple questions within the one piece of content. My favourite movie of all time. Has everyone seen Rocky? They must have seen it.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to have to watch it in Bulgarian, because I wonder, have you guys watched it in English? Because obviously Sylvester Stallone's accent is pretty different, and I can't imagine what the voiceover for that might be. It would be amazing. I'm going to have to watch that. So you need to make sure for every action and every challenge there is someone who is accountable, and that is someone who isn't necessarily doing the work, but they're accountable for making sure it is done. The difference between responsible and accountable is that person is the final source of truth. Has that been done? What do we need to get that done? What are the milestones? You don't want the milestones to be what's called a lagging goal, and a lagging goal would be in 6 months' time we need 50 pieces of content, or we need to rank by this or have that, but you're not tracking anything up to the milestone. So you get to the milestone, did we hit it? Nope. Well, you need leading goals, which should be in order to do this, we need to be doing these things this week, these things this week. Have we done these things? And when you get halfway to your milestone, you then know whether or not the person accountable needs to be fired, or whether the client needs to spend more money or put more time. You need to know these things. And then, how do you keep on track? So if you're looking at your leading goals and you start feeling like you're getting behind, is it because the challenge is too large, or is it because the actions are too comprehensive, or is there something you need to do in order to make sure that you're coming back on track? Is it a case of just revising the deadlines? Easiest way of doing it, obviously. If you don't need to do that, is it a case of we need to put more people onto this project in order to get it back on track? Once you know whether you're on track or off track, then you know whether or not the person accountable is going to meet their milestones. And then what happened? I just said that. So that's not my dog, but it's cool, right? So you need to know what good looks like, and like I said a minute ago, you need to track completed actions, but those actions should have something measurable against it. Yes, we put the content live, but what does that mean to us? What do we want that to do? Has that sold us more of our product or service? What does that mean to the business? You need to track the changes that you make in as many different places as you can. So we, sorry Fernando, we use SEO Monitor for our rank tracking suite, and we annotate any times that we put a big piece of content live or we make a big change to the technical side of the SEO, so that we're tracking and annotating whether or not that has made an uplift or a downtick. We also do that obviously in Google Analytics, and then we write a list as well just in case. But if you're tracking when things have been done, you can then more directly notice whether or not it's made the impact. And then, are you measuring success by saying, we've made more sales? Are you measuring success by being more visible? At what point in the funnel are you trying to measure success? We're more visible, so then therefore we're meeting more people's demand at the awareness stage, or is it all about the money at the end of that awareness process? And then, what do you do if things don't go to plan? And it never goes to plan. No strategy will ever go to plan. You should always probably be revising this strategy as you go. Like I said, it's not written in stone. So if things don't go to plan, it isn't a case that someone's failed. It's probably more likely that the challenge was too large, or the steps were too many, or the way that it was agreed to track the success of it wasn't actually that successful. And this is the thing that I've kind of really come here to talk about. So what we do is, once we've done all of the strategy, the planning, we then deploy what I call the Cornerstone Plus method. So everyone will probably agree that that's how a website normally looks. You have your home page, the pages where you're trying to sell something, you have your blog articles, and you have external links. Everyone recognises that from everything, everywhere. This is what we build. A churn content pillar is your PR stuff, someone's birthday, or we've raised some money for charity, or it's our business's anniversary. It's like really short PR like stuff for a website. It should go in like a news section or something. Then you have the Cornerstone pillar here. The Cornerstone pillar is the one thing that you are absolute experts on, and that should be everything that the business is about, whatever it is, all one place, one piece of content, one cornerstone. What that does is your churn pillar kind of doesn't do that much. If it doesn't do anything, just no index it and let someone think that they're doing a great job. The Cornerstone pillar actually passes authority, relevance, and then visibility to the pages that you want indexed, the pages you want to rank, not the pages which you're writing all the content on, but this page. If you have too many cornerstones, then you have the wrong business. If you're about everything, then you can't be good at everything. You have two cornerstones of the business, unless they make the cornerstone food or eat, whatever it might be. So this is what we build. You still have your external sites, you still have your money pages where you try and get people to convert. You also have your churn content pillar, which is your blog articles. But this is what you build: one beating heart of content on the site, just one, and it's one page. It's not loads of pages, and not loads of articles, it's one page. That's your content pillar. I don't know if you can see this. Are you going to share their slides after this to everyone? Yeah, once you've downloaded it in like 3 weeks, you can see. Basically, you've still got your external sites. Your external sites will link to this one page. You'll have one URL to track, obviously. One URL which will gain authority and relevance over time naturally. But then what you do is, each one of these colours represents a block of content. So that's the same as you would do a normal article, but every single heading creates its new anchor point. So a little hashtag at the end of the URL, which means you can anchor to any point in that page. If I'm on an external site about how to keep Gs for as long as possible, if I then click that link, it should take me to the point on the page, which is the most relevant point, as opposed to just the page itself. So you're building links that have relevant anchor text from relevant websites going to a really relevant part on a really relevant page, which has tens of thousands of words on it. Over time, that content obviously will be recrawled and re-indexed, and because you have internal links that point to anchor points as well from relevant pages, you then have this one beating heart where within this content you're passing internal linking authority to your money pages. So your one beating heart is your one URL, is your one thing that you need to work on in terms of a content strategy. Your blogs and everything like that, they can go in the dustbin. This works basically, as I just said, you have one URL to crawl, an index and read, and every time you update it, then that's great. By the way, if you create this one page as with an RSS feed, and then you submit the RSS feed to Google Search Console rather than an XML sitemap, every time that changes, it pings to Google. It's not as frequent anymore because they broke Search Console recently, if you know what's been going on with that. But it means that you're constantly telling the search engine the page is updated and there's more stuff there. Again, with JSON snippets, you can do that as well. If you're only aging one URL, you've only got one thing to manage, you can then put all of your effort into that one thing, and the one thing is usually really important to most businesses. If you said to any business owner, what's the one thing that's important to you, other than obviously making money or lasting a very long time, they would probably say, the one thing I have nothing of is time. So if you don't have enough time, then you should have one URL rather than multiple. You then have one URL to build links to from different types of content on different websites, but pointing to one page with the anchor point. You then have one source of for creating internal relevance that none of your competitors will have, or no competitors will have, because we're the only guys that are doing this at the minute. And it's easier to sculpt internal authority because you're pointing the right place to the exact hyper-localized point in the page. So as takeaways, you need to know your audience, obviously, do the proper research, make the plan, stick to the plan unless the plan doesn't work, build the right structure as I've just shown you, and then measure the results. If you do all of those things, you'll rank #1, or whatever everyone wants to do. Make more money, that stuff. Thank you.